Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Comic Books Go to the Movies. I'm Sean Basinger, aka the Fox and the Fedora, and with me are...
Rory Griffin, aka the Tiger Wolf 55.
Special guest star, if you can call me that, Drew Brown, aka Bloodstained Fur.
And welcome to another amazing episode. It is post Guardians of the Galaxy time, and everyone here has seen it. And we're all going to give our little reviews about it. Tiger Wolf.
This is really a great year for Marvel. I just gotta say that this is them experimenting and doing things different. And Guardians of the Galaxy is the film that they have earned. If they had started out with this, they wouldn't have been able to pull it off, but since they have all the successes, they were able to do it. And let me just say, I am so glad that they did. This movie was just a joy to watch. The 3D effects worked. It was actually one time when they successfully made me jump. The story was just fun. They managed to find good ways of getting all the characters together and needing to stay together. And I would say that this is the benchmark for how a good team superhero movie needs to work. Yes, you had your central character who got a good chunk of the focus, but all the characters around him also got great development, great scenes, and awesome dialogue. I'm going to contrast this to X-Men and say, X-Men, it was the standard. This now should be the standard. The villain was great. The aesthetics were great. This is the quintessential comic book movie, in my opinion. It is now just absolute must-see for anybody who says that they enjoy comic book movies, action movies, or sci-fi.
Okay, and Drew, what did you think?
This film made me feel like a kid again, and I love that so much. It had so much fun with itself. It knew that it was an absurd idea, and I loved how they took something very outlandish and very screwball-y and actually had a lot of fun with it, gave it a lot of heart, and still made it very thrilling and exciting. You know, this is kind of like the Star Wars of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, it really, going back to what Rory was saying, it was the big risk taker. If you start off with this film in the franchise, people weren't ready for it. You had to have your Iron Man, your Thor, your Captain America, your Avengers before people were ready for this film. And I think that's what made it work so well, is there was a lot of kind of built up to the film. Even though it was so different, you had a whole new group of characters, there was still enough going on in the background that related back to previous installments that made it feel connected, that it didn't make it feel so random like it was just, you know, another superhero movie. Also, I loved all the characters. I was a bit leery at the idea that you had 5 main characters, and with the Avengers, they had to have, every main character had to have their own standalone film building up to the Avengers, you know, in order to introduce them and give them enough screen time. So when this film came around and they're already all together in the same movie, I was a little nervous, wondering if it was going to be rushed, or if, you know, they weren't going to have enough development for each of the characters, if they were going to work well together, and they did. And they did. They were all memorable. They were all funny. And they all worked very well together. And I look forward to seeing where this franchise goes in the future.
I have to say I agree there. Personally, when I went and saw it and came out of the theater, the first thing I said to my family who I was with was, this is what art should be. This is what I was taught art should be. They made something really for themselves. They saw Guardians, they had the property, and they said, let's make this because this could be fun. And that's what I've always been taught. You make something for yourself. Yes, you have to remember that, you know, you have to put effort into it. You want to keep your audience in mind. But at the same time, if you're not making it for yourself, then you pretty much shouldn't be making it at all. So, you know, to Marvel, congratulations. This was truly a success. James Gunn, you did fantastic. I was worried because one of the previous movies you had directed I wasn't too fond of, the Scooby-Doo movie. So congratulations. I look forward to seeing what you're going to do with the next one. I look forward to the future Marvel films. Again, Marvel, congratulations, and make mine Marvel. Now, who here, like me, kept their eyes open for the all-popular Easter eggs?
Definitely. We got to have those. They have them in every one of the films.
And this one had chock full of them. Was chock full of them. I misspoke.
Did anyone spot Beta Ray Bill?
I caught a glimpse of him in my last viewing. Yes. I'm not gonna say where though. You gotta go see the movie.
Well, considering that the collector's entire collection just got blown up by the Power Gem, who knows what got set free? I mean,
that kind of worries me actually.
That's a spoiler in case anybody's wondering.
One of the questions I had, I'll have to go back and look through the movie again, but I was wondering when I saw that they had this huge collection for the collector, I was like, is this where Red Skull got sent to? So I was thinking maybe you don't need Hugo Weaving. You just get somebody in the background.
Yes, you do. Sorry.
Well, for this part, since he is not like, if you want to do an Easter egg, you just have an extra.
Oh, I see.
Like
I
Red
see. Okay,
Skull.
Then that would work.
Yeah. I thought maybe I missed him, or I don't know if he's even in there. But if he is, I would like to try and hunt around to see if I can find him. Because it's just a guess. And as I said, considering that the collection is now loose, Beta Ray Bill might be out there somewhere.
Thor 3, please. Sorry.
Wait a minute. Is he the one that's like the giant horse?
Yes, that's him.
Okay, I kind of know. Okay, I just didn't remember the name. That's what it was. Okay, I'm back with you now.
I just call him Bill.
Bill the horse. Yeah, the horse god. I like that.
Now the next Easter egg that I thought was very intriguing, and you'll remember this one, Rory. In our first episode, we had kind of like we had our first Fox versus Wolf battle.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the fact that I believe that the Mind Gem was Loki's staff, and so did a lot of other people. But it turns out after the collector's little exposition, we only saw one blue Infinity Gem, or Infinity Stone, as they're calling them here. So I guess unless Marvel's gonna trick us and be like, "Oh, the color changed," it looks like the Tesseract is the only blue-colored Infinity Stone, which means Loki's staff is not the Mind Stone.
Which means for Avengers 2, come on, say it.
I would love to say it. You have to tell me what it is, though.
Oh no, this is something that Sean has to say.
Oh.
It doesn't look like there's going to be an Infinity Stone in Avengers 2.
Yeah! Woo! Tiger Wolf wins!
This is all you have, so I'm going to be happy for you.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Well, to be honest, I'm not all that surprised, about Avengers 2, because you figure they've been introducing them, like, right and left like crazy, the Infinity Stones. So to take a break for that, when we really look at the subject matter of Avengers 2, it doesn't really lend itself to say, yeah, we need an Infinity Stone in here. So that's all right.
Not only that, but we have a lot of movies between now, Avengers 2 meaning, and Avengers 3. That's a lot of movies to introduce and develop more of the Infinity Stones, and they've been pretty good about scattering them throughout so far.
They've already got release dates set up until 2020, and they don't say what those films are for Marvel, but they have the release dates like locked in. So who knows how many? And what is it, in 2017? You're going to start having 3 of them yearly. That's going to be nuts. Good nuts, but still.
Now here's something interesting. All right, so you guys, and I agree. You don't always need to focus on Infinity Stones, Infinity Gems in every movie. Didn't need that for Iron Man 3, didn't need that for Winter Soldier, and a lot of the films before Captain America: The First Avenger, you didn't even need to talk about anything space-wise before, Thor. So it's possible that this movie could be one of those Infinity Gems. We'll get back to those stories. Meanwhile, but now there is another thing going around that has me keeping an eye on it. There is a guy whose name is apparently Roger Wardell. He did he's been the primary spoiler guy for Marvel films. He has given spoilers for Thor the Dark World and I think one other movie, can't remember what it was, but when he gave the spoilers early, turns out he was right on the money. Was it luck? Was it a hoax? We're not really sure. He guessed that Frigga would be killed off. He guessed that Odin would be apparently killed off, but we're not really sure.
He's a clairvoyant.
You would go there.
I did.
Hi, Bill Paxton. Now, this guy, Wardell, gave apparently spoilers for Avengers Age of Ultron. And one of the things he said, and when I read his spoilers, the one thing that pops in my mind automatically is hoax. Because the spoiler he gives seems so convoluted and such a complex plot. It feels like the plot of like a season of a show rather than a 2-hour movie. And that's why I believe it's a hoax. But on the other hand, based on the trailer that was shown at Comic-Con, I'm keeping an eye on it because one of the things he said in his spoilers is that Andy Serkis, who played the memorable role of Gollum from Lord of the Rings, and basically made what motion capture is today, he said that Andy Serkis is playing the real Mandarin and has the time gem.
Wow. That's extreme.
And one of the things that happened in the Comic-Con trailer, apparently, is that Tony Stark is standing in a wasteland with all the Avengers either dead or beaten up before him, and Ultron just standing victoriously over them. And I'm wondering, okay, what is this? Is this a vision of a future? The vision of the future? Did Tony go to the future? Is this an image projected by Scarlet Witch? There's a lot of speculation. And now the reason I don't think this is a real spoiler, though, is because he also mentions that Hank Pym plays an important role in the movie. And we all know that's not the case. So I'm thinking it's a hoax. I don't think Whedon would allow such an amazingly complex plot to go into this movie. We don't. I'm not saying he won't, but he could. It could go either way at the moment. So until we actually see the trailer, we actually see the actual movie, I'm not sure. Do you think they'd try something like that, especially since they announced in the short film All Hail the King that there would be a real Mandarin one day? Or do you think there's something else going on here? One of my theories is that it's not Mandarin, but it's one of Kang the Conqueror's alter egos, Immortus, because they said that Andy Serkis had a beard in this one quick trailer shot that he appeared in. And I'm like, okay, is this Immortus and he's got like the time stone? But then how would you fit that into a plot that's basically already pretty straightforward? You got the Avengers taking out Hydra and then you got the Ultron situation. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Want to get you guys in on the discussion.
The whole Mandarin thing, it does seem a bit far-fetched, but at the same time, I like the fact that Avengers 2 is kind of focusing more on Tony Stark in terms of story, because when you really look at it, even though he was like the first in this series, a lot of the story elements have been the furthest away from him. When you look at Phase 1 movies, the essential films that you would really need to see to appreciate the Avengers in all of its glory would be Captain America and Thor. Because those are the ones, the Tesseract, Loki, those are the big elements that make up, the big plot line of the film. Iron Man, not so much. A lot of his stories, his conflicts are very self-contained. Not a lot happens in them that opens up the door to a bigger threat or more characters. I mean, yeah, Iron Man 2, you have more of Nick Fury and Shield, and Romanoff is in there as well. But overall, these plot lines are pretty self-contained, and they're fun films, but they don't add much to the big picture. I mean, you look at Iron Man 3, the same thing. Nothing at the end of the film, the little post-credit scene didn't give us anything that made us think that, oh, this was leading up to something bigger. That's just how Iron Man operates, is he just kind of has his own little mini adventures that are really not connected to something bigger. So to have like a bigger plot significance to him now actually would be kind of nice, because it would finally give him a little bit more relevance in the series. Just not the character, but so much the stories, what he's doing in between the big films. I think that would be really cool to actually do something like that, regardless if it's something Mandarin or oriented or not.
Well, I agree with Drew regarding the inclusion of Iron Man. I know that a lot of people were already saying that Avengers was technically Iron Man 3, but if you take a good look at it, no, it really wasn't. Like Drew said, you take a look at the elements of Avengers, its plot lines, and how it connects to everything, and it depended on the other films, not so much Iron Man. Even though it did technically lay the groundwork for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, for Avengers itself, not necessarily that important. You just needed to know who the players were. For this one, I like the idea of being a little bit more about Tony, even though I kind of like the idea of launching a little bit more off of Captain America this time around. Doing a little bit more with Tony would be appropriate. As for the Mandarin thing, though, I'm gonna say I hope that it's not true. I'd prefer that if they do end up doing an Iron Man 4, since he's apparently open to the idea of reprising the role, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, I mean, then save Mandarin for that. I don't like the idea of trying to cram so much into the movie when you kind of already have the threat of it being overstuffed with Ultron and Hydra and Quicksilver and his sister Scarlet Witch and everything, and the development of Loki's scepter, which is going to have to play some kind of role given the Chekhov's gun that they were playing at the end of Captain America 3. So as far as the Mandarin goes, I hope that it's just a rumor and nothing more.
I agree. Personally, what I thought made Avengers work is that even though they said it's our own, it's still a standalone movie. Really, it did give reason for all these characters to be connected to the plot. Thor had come to bring Loki home and also retrieve the Tesseract. Captain America was already familiar with the Tesseract during his brief glimpse of it when Red Skull pulled it out. And so he knew, oh, this is the secret weapon that I had to deal with in the past. You had Iron Man, who I still think Howard Stark based the arc reactor technology on the Tesseract. And Hulk, Hulk was the one who was kind of the more loose from the story. He was kind of just brought in because he's an expert on gamma radiation, and the Tesseract gives off a little bit of gamma radiation. So I liked how that kind of all came together. It's like we all have a reason to be here. We're not just like, hey, we made a Hulk movie. Let's get the Hulk in here. It's actually we have reason to bring these characters into this plot. And I hope they do that again for Avengers Age of Ultron. It looks like they are. You got Tony, who after he had beaten the Mandarin, after he'd beaten Killian, I should say, he basically kind of just wanted to stop. It feels like, he wants to be, he'll still help protect the world if he can, but I don't think he's really into the whole, like, it's all on me. It's more like, let's create these robots to go out and kind of give us a break. And you've got Captain America, who is dealing with the whole Bucky crisis and Hydra literally destroying S.H.I.E.L.D. because they were S.H.I.E.L.D. And Thor would probably be involved in some way because it has to do with Loki's staff, and it also has to do with the fact that Thor made up his mind at the end of Dark World that he would go and live on Earth primarily and protect it. So uh, I hope they kind of give a more of a more reasons for other characters to be involved. Joss Whedon says that there's supposed to be 4 major female characters in the movie, so we're not sure who that last one could be. But I really hope they bring together the Avengers the same way they brought the Avengers together the last time. They all have a reason to be in this story. They're not just there because it's cool we have that character. And I'm confident Marvel will be able to do that. In terms of the Mandarin, yeah, I don't think we need Mandarin. I really think that could be saved for Iron Man 4, or even if you wanted to, risk another Iron Man trilogy, and build up the Mandarin again, build up a real Mandarin. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. It's really all speculation.
And they have technically built up the Mandarin throughout the original Iron Man trilogy. Aside from the whole Aldrich Killian thing, they had hints of him throughout. You had the 10 Rings. There was some sort of connection between Whiplash and the Mandarin. So they can build on it. It's just execution.
Yeah. I really hope that as you guys have said, that the movie remains fairly condensed to itself. We were concentrating on Ultron. Ultron is the bad guy. Don't bring in Mandarin or somebody bigger and have Ultron fighting for screen time. Because that's a conversation I actually had with my dad. I actually was talking to him about, wouldn't it be cool if we got a villain team up? And he's like, well, the Avengers wouldn't have to do a thing. The villains would just be like, I'm the leader. No, I'm the leader. No, I'm leading this team. I'm the big bad guy. I come all the way from Asgard. Well, I'm from farther than Asgard. Oh, yeah, well, and then they'll just beat each other up, and that'll be the movie. So...
Shawarma, anyone?
So, but no, I think it should stay, what the title promised us. It's Age of Ultron. Ultron is the big bad of this movie. Give us Ultron. And we don't need anything else. Hydra, okay, good for a build-up, but give us Ultron.
Yes.
Well said.
So, one more little Easter egg to talk about, and it's appropriate I said egg.
No, please. No, go past. Please.
Howard the Duck.
You said it. Now we have to talk about it.
This was a surprise.
And not a pleasant one, we might add.
I don't know. We should have seen this coming, though. I mean, they technically have been able to do this since 2012, when they bought Lucasfilm.
Remember the whole Jurassic Park thing? We never stopped to think if we could do it, but whether or not we should do it. This is a big instance. Don't do it. You guys are on all-time high. Don't lay an egg now.
Don't you see? They weren't buying Lucasfilm so that they could create the new Star Wars or try to continue Indiana Jones. They wanted it so that they could do Howard the Duck.
Well, the waves gotta come down sooner or later, and the ride will be over.
We should probably explain just what is going on and why we're talking about Howard the Duck like this.
Yes, for those who don't know, the post-credit scene for Guardians of the Galaxy featured the Collector in his ruined museum, drinking this alien drink and hanging out with Cosmo, the psychic dog, and...
No, he doesn't talk in the movie, sorry.
And sitting nearby, mocking him basically, is Howard the Duck, played by, or voiced by in this case, Seth Green.
We're not kidding. Stop looking at us like that.
And if you're wondering if this was just a final gag by Marvel, No, he is actually in the movie itself. If you look very carefully, just up above to the right of the Collector when he first pops up on screen, there is an orange canister, and inside you can see Howard. So yes, he is officially part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe now.
I choose not to see him.
Yeah, it's like you just look up. It's like that everything else you're looking around the collector's museum in the scenes, but as soon as you look up to like Howard the Duck's canister, it's like a blur. Like there's like just blurred out. You can't even see what's going on up there. So, but no, it's actually kind of odd. They just kind of throw Howard the Duck in there, and it's like, wow, that came out of left field. I mean, literally, it's like you didn't even hear the warning. It's like, what do they do? Whisper it? Look out! What? Oh, oh!
We warned you. No, we didn't.
So I don't know. It's crazy, but
maybe they're just paying homage. I mean, technically, Howard the Duck was Marvel's very first film. And he had his 25th anniversary a couple years back. So maybe they just insisted that they put him in there for a little bit. I don't know. Hopefully they're not actually thinking of giving him his own movie.
Let's hope not. Because then they'd have to use Dr. Bong as the villain.
Save me, Drew.
It just gets better and better, doesn't it? Yeah. This is why when I get the DVD or Blu-ray release, as soon as the credits start rolling, I'm turning it off. What you were saying, how random and crazy it was to see him here. And then when you think about everything that's happened in the movie, in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and thinking, look how much random, over-the-top crazy stuff was in there, as cool as it was, just over-the-top stuff. And then to say, what was the most wacky thing in that whole film was seeing him. That's saying something. We can see all the things in that film that seem so wacky and crazy and random and over the top. The one thing you can point to without a doubt saying that was the craziest was seeing Howard the Duck. That's really saying something. It was for what, 4 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, now there's one other thing that Rory actually brought up that I destroyed afterwards. Rory, one of the questions you gave me is, after the explosion, is the ether still contained?
Ooh.
And I replied, what if it's worse than that? What if Howard the Duck has it?
I refuse to acknowledge that. No, that would mean that he is critical to the Marvel Cinematic Universe now, and how the whole Infinity Gauntlet story is going to have to play out. No! I refuse to have him as part of Avengers 3.
Here's a cookie. Calm down.
No.
It'll be okay. I promise. They're not going to do that. It's quite possible that the Collector, he's not going to... Okay, I mean, no, that's his museum and everything, but does he actually live there in his museum? Like, where's his living quarters? Because it makes me wonder, he's not going to just keep the ether, something of such power and beauty, on display with the rest of his... relics and stuff that he's collected, because that's something very precious. And you just looked at how he was geeking out over the power gem, that this is not something he's just going to randomly put on display. He's going to want to keep it somewhere secret and safe, probably not with the rest of his treasures, because he knows, now they haven't really revealed this, but I know in the comics they said that he had the gift of foresight, and that's how he knew that Thanos was going to collect all the Infinity Stones to destroy the universe, and that's why he's trying to collect them to prevent that from happening. So he's going to try and keep these hidden. This is like, it's almost like his collection is like a marketplace where anybody can kind of come in if invited to kind of look at it. So I don't think he's going to keep the ether out there in plain sight for everybody to see it. So I think he's got it somewhere else. Maybe he gave it to somebody else. You don't know. So I don't think it was in that area, but that's just speculating.
It's at home under his mattress.
Yes, under his pillow. He prays to it every night.
No, it's like, then again, it's also the fact that the Asgardians brought it to him in this canister. So at the same time, do you think they would place something that dangerous in a breakable canister? It's like, guys, we gotta get rid of the ether. What do we do with it?
Well, I don't think that they were planning on the other power gem causing an explosion like that.
Oh, just put in this little canister labeled Fragile. It'll be safe, yeah.
I got this cardboard box. That'll do.
No, it's probably fine, at least until Avengers 3, when we'll see Thanos going gung-ho on his quest to collect all the Infinity Gems. But it was just a funny thought, and I hate you, Sean, for putting that thought in my head of making Howard the Duck necessary for Avengers 3.
You're welcome.
But he's saying it with a lot of love in his eyes.
Well, honestly, I have a theory for Avengers 3. If that's gonna be the Infinity Gauntlet story, because I think they did say that everyone is contracted until Avengers 3. Everyone right now is. One of the ideas I have is that after you get to Thor 3, which it sounds like Thor 3 is going to be the movie that leads to the Avengers 3 movie, because they are saving Thor 3. I think, wouldn't it be cool if in Avengers 3, Thanos gets a hold of Loki again, and he's like, remember that whole Chitauri thing, and you promised me the Tesseract, but then you got beaten up by the Jolly Green Giant.
Oh yeah, I still remember that. I haven't forgotten that.
Yeah. If you don't want me to destroy you right here, right now, you have to go and do 6 times as much work. You have to get all 6 of these things and bring them to me. And he'll probably send like somebody he trusts or another villain to make sure that Loki doesn't double cross him. And then the whole movie, or at least a good portion of the movie, will just be like the Avengers chasing Loki across the galaxy to try and stop him from getting back to Thanos. And then you could have an ending where maybe Loki is essential to double-crossing Thanos or something like that and beating him. You could also have Nebula involved. But also, if they have like an Infinity Stone introduced like in Doctor Strange, I could just see the scene now. Loki steals something from Stark or whatnot, or Stark's flying by, and then you get like Loki attacking Doctor Strange. Stark flies in. It's like, hi, I'm Iron Man. Yes, I know. Can you help me deal with this guy? So, and then you could, you get Thor involved. He could, tell them about the Infinity Stones. They could go to Asgard for the first time. That would be cool. Be cool to see the Avengers fighting in Asgard. You get the Guardians of the Galaxy involved later on as they get closer to Thanos and the inevitable conclusion. It's just my own idea for what I would like to see in Avengers 3, but we'll have to wait and see. For some reason, I don't think they're going to keep Loki out of Avengers 3. So,
let's face it, he is the most popular Marvel. Well, he was the most popular Marvel character now. I think he's been taken over by a little 4-foot-something furry creature.
But it's speculation. And it would be really cool to see that happen. Now, moving on to a new topic. This weekend saw the opening of the Michael Bay-produced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and it did better than what the studio originally predicted. It made $65 million, and they predicted it was going to make $60 million. So, because it did so well, a sequel date was released.
Sorry.
And the world winced.
June 3rd, 2016.
I'm just waiting for them to say, gotcha, just kidding. And the world heaves a collective sigh of relief. But then again, I've not seen it, so.
Neither have I, however, I do plan on seeing it. I'm going to put this addendum to it. Michael Bay, I realize that he's only producing the movie, however, his stamp is still on this. He stated recently that people complain about his movies, but they're still stupid enough to go see them, and they will go watch and pay for them. I'm going to be seeing Ninja Turtles and giving my honest opinion about it in the next podcast, hopefully. However, I'm not going to be paying for it because I have a free ticket. If I did not have this free ticket due to my rewards going to a specific movie theater, I would be skipping out on Ninja Turtles and recommending everybody do so just to send him this message. Bay, produce quality. You are smart. You have proved it. Use it effectively.
Well, a lot of people I talk to have said the same thing. It's like, love the visual effects, but you can't tell a story to save your life. But yeah, the sequel has been announced for June 3rd, 2016, and they said that they'd like to get Casey Jones, Bebop, and Rocksteady involved in the sequel.
Just like the good old days.
Yep, they were already planning on using Bebop and Rocksteady for this movie before it was rewritten, so that's not really surprising.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Right now, it's not. The critics obviously did not like the film. It's got like what, 19% on Rotten Tomatoes, being beaten out by that stupid Twister type movie Into the Storm, by 1%. But
Yes, but people have been very fast to point out critics have never been very kind to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies, even the originals.
yeah, that's true. But again, Rory, you go check it out. Come back with your opinions. We'd be more than happy to hear them.
Will do.
Next up on our list, we have Batman v Superman versus Captain America 3. Captain America 3 wins.
Saw it coming. Oh well.
They blinked.
DC's reasoning is that they said that they didn't want the competition. They didn't want to they thought that they needed more time to have their own weekend, so they moved 6 weeks to March, so that they would be the first in line still.
That's Cold War 4. We know you're better than us, so we're just gonna let you have your way.
Not better than, but clearly Marvel is successful.
I want to say one thing about that, though. Marvel is the real risk taker here. If Marvel had not done Iron Man and set up for the Avengers, DC would never have had the guts to do it with Justice League. They let Marvel take all the chances. I can almost guarantee we never would have saw Justice League if Avengers didn't hit it big or if they didn't try it first.
Not true. We were going to be getting a Justice League movie back before the writer's strike of 2008.
Okay, hold on. We gotta make this official. Okay, it's Raccoon versus Tiger Wolf. Go.
I got a grenade launcher. What do you got?
The power of the sun in the palm of my hands. Okay.
Doc Ock?
Yes, I don't care. In 2008, plans were already being made for an animated Justice League movie. Yes, it would not have been connected to either the Superman films that were being planned out at the time or the Christopher Nolan Batman series, but it would have been a Justice League movie akin to the X-Men trilogy that would have had all the major players in there, and I don't know the major plot details, but basically the only reason why that movie did not go forward is because the writer's strike went on so long. By the time it was over and people were actually getting back to their jobs, the interest had already gone away and they were moving on to other projects.
It's hard to believe that year, 2008, when the writer's strike was at an all-time high. We got films like Iron Man and, of course, The Dark Knight. You wouldn't realize that, like, wow, yeah, you got some of the best superhero films coming out that year where things were really terrible. But, okay, fair enough. It just,
No, I know what you're saying. Even though the Justice League movie would have gone forward before the Avengers, it wouldn't have been a connecting film. You wouldn't have gotten the individual people or an interconnected universe. Marvel did that first.
I know that Justice League, technically in the comics, came first, and that Thanos is like a ripoff of like Darkseid. And okay, yeah. But the way they're building up these movies now, DC is essentially just playing catch up with Marvel. I mean, you can say they have all the originality all you want, and they're gonna. I wish them the best. I really, truly do wish them the best. But when it's all said and done, Marvel's like, you know what? We did it first. Maybe they can have some good movies in there, and I'm sure they will. I really hope the Batman Superman movie does succeed, because it is really awesome to finally have these two, pretty much your two biggest superheroes in history, coming together for a film. So yeah, it's really not the subject matter, but just the fact that you're having these two characters in the same movie. I think people could really care less. Well, maybe they do care a little bit, but they don't really care what the plot is going to contain so much as it is just seeing these two characters together, along with onslaught of others. Like, was it Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Cyborg?
Yes, and I'm not going to be an ignorant DC fanboy and say that DC can do no wrong here.
Oh yes, they can. Many times.
And yeah, Marvel is the one that took the risks. They were the ones who paved the way for DC to say, okay, we'll finally try a shared universe, which is something that people have been clamoring for. But yeah, I hope that DC does well, just as much as I know that Marvel will continue to do well. It's like I've told Sean, and I believe I have said it on the show, my trust is in Marvel, my hope is in DC, and Spider-Man needs to stop going to Sony.
That is very, very true. Very, very true. I can't believe I'm actually defending Marvel so hardcore now because Batman was, and forever shall be my favorite superhero. And yet, it's just that I've seen that story done so many times now. I personally feel it was perfected in the Nolan trilogy. And yes, I'm still very interested to see what they're going to do with this new film. I am interested to see Ben Affleck as the role. I like the look of the suit. I like that. I think they said that they're going to make him older in this film. Not like Batman Beyond old, but definitely has been doing it for a while. I like that approach.
Yeah, the official age for him has been released. It's 45.
Right. So that is a nice new, interesting little twist they put on it. But again, it's just the fact that DC has some truly wonderful films, but going back to what we were saying about Guardians of the Galaxy, it was a fun movie. It made me feel like a kid again, and it had so much lovable elements about it that made it, again, one of the quintessential comic book superhero movies out there, I think. And the problem with DC is I feel that they sometimes take themselves a little too seriously. Man of Steel was a breathtaking film. I loved it. I really did. But it's a very dark and heavy film. Not saying I want it to be old school Christopher Reeves, Gene Hackman, Superman thing, but it was very heavy on the on the deep stuff. It was the drama. It was very dramatic. And again, I like a darker superhero film. I mean, that's what we have, the Nolan Batman trilogy for. But again, the problem there is because they were so popular when they were coming out, especially The Dark Knight, that took everybody by storm. It just became almost like the new standard that every superhero movie had to be like that. It had to take itself seriously. It had to be dramatic and intense and believable. Otherwise, it wasn't worth seeing, or wasn't, if you can't put yourself in the character's shoes, then it's not worth seeing. Although it lacks the imagination, though. I mean, Dark Knight was an exceptional film. I always love it, but it does lack the childlike imagination that brings, I think, a lot of people into comic books.
I agree. And even Marvel has kind of gone like that. I mean, you and I have already compared Captain America 3 to The Dark Knight itself.
2.
We have
Captain America 2.
Captain America 2, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. It's coming, man. Just
I'm generating thoughts here. I'm all right. Captain America 2 is essentially The Dark Knight for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was their most serious, their most dramatic since Iron Man. But let's also remember, Iron Man started off very dark and serious in a different way than The Dark Knight. But Marvel has given us various different types of superheroes. Again, in this year alone, we have gotten their dark, dramatic, thriller type of movie. And then we just received the fun, childly, imagination-fueled movie that was Guardians of the Galaxy. It was pure comic book awesomeness. So Marvel has already proven that you can do a bunch of different things. They just established their own specific tone. And if DC does that for their own movies, where things are going to be a little bit more thematic for their movies, but they'll manage to bring in some more levity, then I think that it'll be fine. There are still going to be fundamental differences between the two companies as they go forward. And honestly, I wouldn't want them to try and be everything that Marvel is. Otherwise, they are just going to continue to be called the Marvel copycats.
They are the Marvel copycats. I mean, sorry, no, they're not.
Okay, you. Get over here.
No, but you just kind of smacked it right dabbing on the head there with the idea that sorry about that. Marvel is very versatile. I think that's one of the things I enjoyed so much about Guardians again. I keep going back to it in circles here, but they just are so diverse with their stories. There are so many things to look forward to as we head into the end of Phase 2 into the beginning of Phase 3 for this series. That's what keeps this series fresh, is that there's so many story arcs, so many characters, and there's just so much to look forward to that you don't get tired of it, unless you don't like superheroes, in which case you shouldn't be watching them in the first place.
And why are you listening to us?
Right, exactly. Very good. Whereas, I mean, I am second-guessing myself here, or actually making a lot of assumptions that DC is going to take itself seriously. But you look at what started with Man of Steel, that's essentially their Iron Man now, and it did take itself very seriously, very dramatic. Again, very well done, but I wouldn't want to see every installment of that franchise that intense, because that's a little too intense for its own good. I love how Marvel, which was always more lighthearted with its franchise, can take those dark turns and do it very well with the Winter Soldier. But then they can just go to the complete 180 with Guardians and just have so much fun with it, all tongue-in-cheek humor, but still having heart to it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I love the most about their franchise, is they have a lot of heart to it.
Okay, welcome back to the Drew and Rory show.
Sorry, Sean, you go ahead now.
No, it's okay. I talk too much anyway. I like the discussion. I think Drew has a point here. Iron Man, while I don't think it was extremely dark, it did have a slightly darker feel to it than, say, what the later installments gave us, like Iron Man 3. And to say that Man of Steel kind of started in a similar way, well, the DC cinematic universe, let's call it that, started with Man of Steel in a similar way. There is room to change into a more fun, less intense universe. And I hope they go that direction. I really would like to see the DC cinematic universe come into being and be there, so that, it's like, oh, cool, we've got, the DC superheroes are finally getting some time to shine. And, as much as I am more of a Marvel guy than I am DC, I really do want to see these characters have their moment, because I love things like the Green Arrow show. I am so much looking forward to the Flash show. And I just hope that they can translate what makes those shows so good to the movies. And as I said, here's hoping. But we'll just have to wait and see what they do with Batman v Superman, and we'll also have to wait and see how Captain America 3 does. So,
well, I know that I'm going to be seeing both movies, so.
Absolutely, same here. I think that year is the Batman and Superman movie. I'm more looking forward to the characters, the dynamics there, but Captain America 3, I'm more looking forward to the story. Yeah.
By the way, quick question for you, Drew.
Yes.
What's your opinion on hipster Lex Luthor?
I have not seen that. I've heard of that, but I have not seen that. No. I wish I could give an opinion because it sounds ridiculous, but yeah. I'm sorry.
It's like Lex Luthor spending all his time on Facebook. LOL. Just dropped kryptonite into Superman's pocket. LOL.
Oh. Well, is that like a joke at Jesse Eisenberg, who's playing Lex Luthor, because he was in the Social Network movie that created Facebook?
I guess so, but what they're doing with Lex Luthor this time around is that Lex is going to be this more hip, social network kind of guy. He's got like a basketball hoop in his office, and it's like, I'm like, are we getting whiny Lex Luthor? I don't know. I was hoping for more of like, when you think Lex Luthor, what does everyone think really? I mean, for me, I go straight to Clancy Brown's voice acting. So I don't know. Maybe this will end up being really cool, and this Lex, even though he'll be like, the social network type of guy, in the end he'll be like this really secretly this really evil genius. Like we expect him to be. He's making deals under the table. He's constantly out on a goal to destroy Superman because he's jealous. He doesn't want him to interfere with his schemes. Who knows? But
I know that we have talked about this on the show before, but yeah. The thing is that we can't really give any opinions because we haven't even seen a set photo with him yet.
That's true, and we'll just have to wait. We'll just have to wait and see what they do with Lex Luthor. I've been satisfied with the casting of Ben Affleck. I liked what Wonder Woman's gonna look like. Only criticism I have there is I wish there was a little bit more color to the suit, but who knows? This could just be a starting suit, and Justice League we might see something a little closer. I don't know, but as for right now, I'm letting them do their jobs. We might get a really, really awesome Batman v Superman movie, the one we've been waiting for, because that would be so great. When I heard they were going to do a Batman Superman movie, I was like, yes, yes, you're finally doing it. This is great to see these two huge DC Comics icons together on the silver screen at last. Even if the film ends up being, dividing the fan base again, like Man of Steel did, it's still Batman and Superman in the same film.
It's funny that you say that because when I first heard that that's what the next film was going to be, was a Batman Superman film. I actually remember talking to Rory about this way back when. I was kind of like, really? Kind of question mark hovering above my head, because I had loved Man of Steel so much that I was very excited and anxious to see the follow-up to it. And then they were thinking, well, the setup for the first movie was so great and immense with General Zod, and the Kryptonians wanted to continue the race. I thought, how can we top this for a sequel? I know, we'll bring Batman into it. I just thought, at first, when I first heard about it, even though it is exciting to think of the possibility, I was shaking my head about it, kind of scratching my head going, oh, I don't know about this. As time went on, I warmed up to it a lot more. And now I'm legitimately really getting excited for it. But just at first glance, it just kind of made me go, where's the gag in here? I'm waiting for the punchline.
It really does. At first, even I was kind of like, on the same fence, even though I was like really excited for it. But I was also thinking, well, shouldn't we get maybe a few more Superman films before we have a crossover?
Exactly.
But, okay, let's see what we can do. I just pray that they do not have Batman beating the crap out of Superman like in Frank Miller's comic, because I'm like, no, guys, you're trying to make it look like that Batman and Superman can stand together so you can get a Justice League movie. And if you have Batman overshadowing everyone, it's going to be the comics. And
And it's not even the comics. It's just Frank Miller's version of the comics. If you take a look at a lot of any time that Batman and Superman have had a confrontation, it's pretty much been Batman loses or gets out and survives by the skin of his teeth. Doesn't even technically win. It's only in Frank Miller's stuff that he really actually beats down Superman.
But you're not bitter or anything, so that's good.
I'm not just against Frank Miller himself because, again, I don't really like his writings. And not only did he misrepresent Superman, he misrepresented Batman, in my opinion.
Now, is that the design that they're going for with the Batman suit in this film? It's more of Frank Miller's design?
Yes. Zack Snyder is friends with Frank Miller, and he is citing the Dark Knight Returns as some inspiration. Okay, fine. The Nolan series also cited that as inspiration, so I'll see what happens there. But yeah, if they're going to go full out and have Batman and Superman fighting outright, please keep in mind that it's only Elseworld stories in which Batman trumps Superman so badly. Please do not destroy Superman just when he is starting to come back into the public's eye as anything more than just the goody-goody Boy Scout in blue.
Because Man of Steel is your favorite superhero film. You made a point of saying at one point, right?
Yes, it still is. So it would be really bad to see such an awesome version of Superman that was just introduced suddenly get pounded into the ground after such a phenomenal fight with General Zod.
Well, that was the point I was making with the whole idea of them making this film, is that it almost seems like they're making it because Batman's going to overshadow Superman.
Well,
and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm good. Go ahead.
All right. I know that I had already said this in the show also, but I thought about it. It does kind of make sense because just like they're basing Batman sort of off of Frank Miller, they're kind of basing Superman off of the John Byrne version of Superman. And in the origin story, Man of Steel, they had Batman and Superman meet towards the end of the series. So I'm okay with it. I had my doubts at first, but I was like, okay, no, wait a minute. They did it in the comics. They had them introduced right from the get-go, so I'll be happy.
I thought it would have been funny if Ma Kent would have said, just don't go dressing up like that nut in Gotham City.
Oh, that would have been so nice, but just fan service, and yeah, oh well.
No, we'll just have to wait and see what they do with it. And when the trailer finally comes out, I'm hoping for some cool stuff. Now, I do give Zack Snyder some props here. He did recently go on a radio show that was bashing Aquaman and defended Aquaman. And that, finally. Look, I get it. Aquaman during the whole Super Friends tenure was silly. But times have changed.
Please watch the 2-part Justice League episodes with Aquaman and see just how awesome he is. That's all I'm going to say. Please, Drew, Sean, continue. I've said my piece enough for the past half hour.
Aw.
Drew's got nothing on Aquaman.
I've always liked Aquaman. I have nothing against him. He's not like one of those embarrassing superheroes. I've always liked the guy. So yeah, I don't know what all the hate is on him all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's just been kind of like a constant running joke that, oh, Aquaman, he talks to fish. Yeah.
And that's the most ridiculous thing that exists in the DC and Marvel universe, so I beg to differ.
Entire city of talking gorillas.
Now you're talking.
But I'm glad that Zack Snyder went on and finally, spoke up for Aquaman. I know a lot of people, there have been a few people who have, like Linkara, for instance. But I'm glad that somebody finally, who actually is working on these films actually, spoke up and said, hey, listen, give Aquaman a chance here. You gotta see what the modern day stories have done with him, what we can do with him, and we can show you how awesome he is. And if Aquaman ends up being in either Batman v Superman or even Justice League, bring it. I want to see Aquaman. I want to see Wonder Woman. I want to see them in solo movies. If you can do them right, if you can do them the way that makes them, classic, but at the same time, you can be like, whoa, these characters are cool. That's what I want to see.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. I think Rory was telling me about this a while ago, that it seems like DC is trying to set up their universe in the same way as like Lord of the Rings, where instead of having a lot of individual installments, which you still will have, they're more trying to bring a lot more characters into individual films just to kind of give it like a bigger scope. But again, that has risks in it too. I mean, just that's another thing that's making me so nervous for the Batman Superman movies, because why do you need... I mean, I'm not... Again, no hate for Aquaman. I love Aquaman. And the same thing for Wonder Woman. But why do you need them all in this film now? Just the Batman and Superman thing, I think, should be enough to get people to say, I want to see this. I feel like they're overcompensating a little bit here and putting a lot more than they really need to, because you're also going to have a young Lex Luthor. You're going to have Alfred in there. You're gonna have a lot of elements, plus returning characters from the Man of Steel movie. I just feel like it's gonna be a lot. It might work, it might not. I don't know. I feel like they're trying just a little bit too hard so early in the game. But then again, I guess they are a little desperate for getting their series off on the ground.
That's why my trust is in Marvel. Hope DC.
So you said. So you said.
We also have to look at it this way. We hear these casting announcements being made, but we also hear the following words after it. He or she has a small role. Wouldn't it be cool if the movie did still focus on Batman and Superman and then had Wonder Woman at the end, but then as a precursor to the next film, which would probably be an actual Justice League film, wouldn't it be awesome if it actually had Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman after the events of this film get together and be like, we actually work really well together. What if and Batman's like, I know a few others, and so maybe Wonder Woman could say the same thing, and then we see them gathering these other heroes, and wouldn't know much about them, but as I said, it's a precursor, a sort of cliffhanger into the next film, kind of showing them forming this league. And then in the next film, we get to know these characters a little bit more. We get to figure out who they are. We get to figure out some things about them. And then we slowly transition into getting them back into their own world, and we follow them. The audience follows them back into their solo movies. And that's how we introduce them in their solo movies.
Maybe you should be writing these films, because that's actually a really well thought out idea. That would be really cool to do it like that. Yeah.
That's how I'm hoping that they're planning on doing it. It's a little bit close to the season finale of season 4 for the Batman cartoon series from the WB, but it was a good one, and it can work.
I also think that when you consider the returning characters for Man of Steel, in terms of Lex Luthor in this movie, one of the things I believe and I hope will happen is that Lex might get Batman and Superman to fight, but then on the other hand, he could be creating a more physical threat for Batman and Superman to fight, or primarily Superman. Now, one of the things I would love to see at the end is not like a direct final confrontation between Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Lex Luthor, but actually have maybe like Lois Lane come in at the end and be like, we've got evidence against you, Lex. And she could have maybe gotten that from Batman or someone, and that's how you take Lex down, at least for now. That's just how I just think that would be a really cool way to end that for now and keep Lex for later. But just my thought.
Oh yeah, I hope they don't introduce and get rid of Lex Luthor all in the same film. That would be a little bit of a waste, especially when you have, or they're planning for more Man of Steel films down the road. I mean, that's his arch nemesis. So they actually have them built up, a rivalry or a bigger battle, whatever you want to call it, down the road. Just introducing in this film, yeah, I completely agree that this should be just like almost like a teaser, a little introductory to bigger things down the road.
Also agreed. As far as Lex Luthor introducing another villain or threat that would actually be the big thing for the big superheroes, I think that has kind of been confirmed. I mean, I remember reading a report that said that Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman were all going to have to team up to fight a foe that they had to take down together. What kind of foe would require all three of them? And fans have speculated, as we have on the show. But I like the idea of having Lois be the one to go and threaten Lex instead of Superman directly. Superman still needs to have his own confrontation with Lex, obviously, but that kind of thing can work.
I think if Superman's going to have a confrontation with Lex, it should really be what again, going and back in referencing the animated series, mostly just like Superman just saying that, one day I will take you down, but Lex just sitting there and going like, good luck, may the best man win. And just setting up that epic rivalry between the two of them, that epic, that arch nemesis relationship. And that would be something I'd love to see, because I think that's what everyone wants to see. They want to see the actual, the big stare down between Superman and Lex Luthor, because that's what we know them for. It's like when you hear Superman against Lex Luthor, you think, like Lex sending robots or some kind of creature after Superman. Superman manages to get through it and then comes and is like, nice try, Lex. You have to do better. And it's like, I will next time. It kind of goes on like this game. And Superman hoping to one day take down Lex, so.
Absolutely, yeah. And it doesn't even have to be where Lex Luthor is the main threat in all of the movies. He could be in there in a lot of them, but he's not necessarily on the foreground. He could be just doing things in the background where he's still there, he's still relevant, looking for ways to, again, get rid of Superman or make life, challenging for him for whatever he might throw at him. But it doesn't always have to be the main focus of the film, because I think if you continually have Lex as the main threat in every one of these, it's gonna kind of run dry eventually. So to have other things going on, but it's like the like Spider-Man, like the Osborn thing in the Spider-Man trilogy. It was the main focus in the first one. It continued on in the second one, but you had Doc Ock. Continue on in the third one, but you had Sandman and Venom. It's always there because it's the ongoing threat of the series, but there are other things happening that are also on the forefront as well.
However, one thing I don't think they do this, but I don't know. One thing that I would be like, like, oh, this doesn't seem right, is if they did something like, yeah, in the movie, Lex Luthor turns himself into Doomsday.
Please don't even say that. Do you know the things that they were threatening to do to Lex in some of the previous ideas for movies?
Yeah, I'm familiar with, like, Superman Lives and Lexiac, as you said in the show.
I'm not even talking about that so much. Superman Flyby when J.J. Abrams was attached. Oh my gosh.
What were they going to do to Lex in that movie?
He was Kryptonian.
Oh dear.
What?
When J.J. Abrams was going to be in charge of the Superman series Flyby, it was going to be an ongoing arc of a space opera type of thing where Krypton wasn't even destroyed. Lex Luthor was going to be revealed to be an agent for Krypton for some secret sector something that was going to monitor Superman and come into physical confrontation with him both on Earth and on Krypton. People complain about Superman Returns all you want. You could have gotten worse.
Nope!
I think I broke his brain.
We got band-aids.
Drew, it's our show now.
Yikes, a band of hope all thee who enter here.
No, honestly, I don't think they do that, but at the same time, or if they're not going to do that, have it be like at the end, it's like, oh, we've got Zod's suit. I'm going to make that kryptonite suit now, so I don't know.
If they do that, that's fine. Allow Lex to have his big moment, but not something crazy like turning him into Doomsday.
Ooh, that was good. Do it again.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, Roy still wins the Evil Laugh contest.
I'm done.
But anyway, we've spent enough time on Batman v Superman. Moving on to, okay, Avengers 2 has wrapped up filming, but then a few days later they announced they're going into reshoots. Not surprising. Reshoots isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just means that, when they got to post-production, maybe an editor would say, oh, can we do this instead? Or maybe they thought, well, let's add this. What do you think, honestly?
It's a big movie. It's a big, long movie, and I imagine that, although they're going to get a lot of the majority of the scenes right, like the big elements of it, there's probably going to be a lot of the little stuff, like the little exposition scenes, character introductions, little bits and pieces of the action that are going to be like, ooh, that didn't quite work, or I don't like how this character was introduced. Let's kind of have them do it this way or that way. It's very common, especially for a film that has so much hype going into it. They want it to be perfection, and that's how they do it. I mean, it doesn't sound like they're running into any issues per se, but yeah, I think it'll be fine. I mean, if they want to just try to make it better than it already is, or that what we think it's going to be, then yeah, go for it.
You know what other movie had reshoots? X-Men Origins Wolverine. This is going to be awful. Do you have any idea what we're in for now?
Fine, don't see it. We'll tell you all about it.
Reshoots, fine, whatever. Like Drew said, it's a big movie. They probably went back over the dailies, saw that they could have done something else or added something or done something a little different, whatever. It happens. It's movies.
I'm going to film school. Been there. It happens on a lot of these shoots. It's just a thing. Nothing's perfect. They forget things. We should probably redo that, or what if we added this to that real quick? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. It happens. So for those of you if any of you out there are like, oh no, reshoots, doesn't mean Avengers 2 is gonna be bad just because they need to go reshoot stuff.
Sometimes that's the studio's involvement or the producers. Like, you have those big hotshots that don't care about the director's vision. They just I want more nudity, like, I'm not talking about action. I mean, I'm not talking about
We're
Avengers.
gonna have nudity in the Avengers?
Boy, yes. I'm talking about most films, though, that have that studio overwrite, where you have the big wigs that go, you know what? I want more explosions. You didn't put nearly enough explosions. I want him to swear more. I want to see more cleavage from her. Those are the kind of reshoots that you have to worry for, when they're completely destroying the director or the crew's vision of what they want the film to be, and they do something completely different, which is why you have director's cuts. But yeah, I don't think that's the case here. After people are still praising and thanking Joss Whedon for his masterpiece with the first Avengers, that I think that it's a pretty safe assumption to make that whatever decisions that he's going to make or whatever are going to be the right ones. Again, I have faith in Marvel. I don't have hope in DC. No, I do a little bit.
Yeah, so I agree. It's just, it happens. You got to go back and take care of some things. I once again, faith in Marvel. They've other movies have had reshoots too before this. Other Marvel films. So nothing to worry about, folks. Just
it's
a
logistics. It might not even have anything to do with the story. It might have something to do with a certain camera angle didn't work for a visual effects shot. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I'm going to make this next segment quick. All you have to do is say yay or nay. Blade 4 or Blade reboot?
Nay.
I think it would have to be a reboot. So yay to the reboot, nay to the 4, because 3 was so terrible.
Okay then. Because they've been talking a lot about getting another Blade movie with Wesley Snipes. So
the man is just trying to restart his career with his most popular series.
Yeah, it's time to move on.
Yeah. Now, the last bit of news here, last bit of big news before we move on to our final segment. The Fantastic Four reboot has wrapped filming already, and it's just started filming not too long ago. The only other shoot I know of that ended this quickly that was a actual Marvel film was Iron Man 2, having filmed for 72 days and then wrapped. So
yeah, and Iron Man 2, yeah. Decent, but
Okay, remember what I said earlier about trust in Marvel, hope in DC, and Sony needs to let go of Spider-Man?
I wasn't listening. I was thinking about something else.
What were you thinking of?
Don't worry about it. I'll tell you later.
Me roasting on a spit. I should have also made sure that I included Fantastic Four needs to be forgotten.
Oh, I wouldn't say forgotten.
The movies need to be forgotten about for now until such time as the rights revert back to Marvel.
Okay, maybe. I actually kind of liked the first Fantastic Four.
No, I
didn't
did. I did too. I enjoyed Fantastic Four and Silver Surfer. They were fun, but they're
Go on, we're listening.
This is a shaky cam movie.
Yeah, with a grand total of 78 minutes. It's gonna be great.
And no costumes or villains as far as I know. This thing is going to make the 2004 movie look like it was a cinematic masterpiece and a perfect adaptation of the comics in comparison.
Do you remember the old Fantastic Four film that was like in the 90s?
You mean the one made by Roger Corman?
I think, yes, the Roger Corman one. I actually liked that one a whole lot more than the newer ones.
What?
Yeah, I did. I don't know why.
Whoa!
I like Doctor Doom.
Whoa!
Did I just set myself on fire and I'm taking you guys down with me? Is that what I just did?
Oh no, you're not taking me down with you, Mr. I don't have hope in Marvel, in DC. I keep on misspeaking today.
I think it's a guilty pleasure. I mean, I know it's not great by any means, but I remember watching it a few times as a kid, and you know what? I was always a big fan of Doctor Doom, and I just liked that. I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I like I said, it's a guilty pleasure.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, one of the discussions that we had over here when we were talking about Fantastic Four, a lot of it had to do with Doctor Doom and how badly they had mangled him in the movies. If they had done him better, the movies probably would have been better. So I can understand your point of view here by saying that it's a guilty pleasure because you like the Doctor Doom in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Congratulations, Drew. From now on, when I'm talking with another Marvel friend, I'm gonna be like, and Fantastic Four comes up in the discussion, I'm gonna be like, hey, I know somebody who likes the Roger Corman Fantastic Four film, just to get a reaction. I won't name names. I'll just be like, I know someone.
You won't name names. It's just going up on the internet.
Just follow my eyes and my finger.
Anyway, but yeah, I don't even. I could care less about this production. All right, time to move on to the final segment of this evening. I present to you, Do It Right.
Yay!
You can't go by me. I like the old Fantastic Four movie, so you can't rely on anything I have to say as merit.
We'll see.
Okay, we're looking at first Spider-Man 3.
Love it.
I think we might have trouble with that one. This podcast is full of defenders for that movie.
I actually was talking with Rory earlier about this, and we were talking about how one suggestion early on in the production of Spider-Man 3 was that they were the writer, I believe, was like, hey, it's got a lot of things going on in it. Do you think we could split this into 2 movies? And the idea got rejected. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, that could have been really cool. Raimi could have had his cake and eaten it too. He wanted Vulture instead of Venom originally. And he wanted to conclude Harry's story, and he also wanted to have Sandman in there because he liked Sandman and thought the visual effects would be really cool. Eddie Brock had a small role at first, and then after the producer, convinced Raimi that the character of Venom had a strong fan base, they gave Venom a starring role, made him the villain, and Vulture was gone. I was like, no, wait a minute, you could have done this way. Okay, you could have split it into 2 movies. You have the first part, which has Vulture and Sandman as the villains. You can introduce the black suit. You could have John Jameson bring it back from outer space. You could have Vulture be the one who sabotages the space shuttle, and Spider-Man has to save the space shuttle, which then brings into the way we open up in the Spider-Man 3 movie where everyone loves him. That could have been something amazingly heroic that could just make everyone go like, this Jameson is wrong. This guy really is the hero.
And besides, he saved Jameson's son. The guy's gotta fess up now.
So then you could have Vulture and Sandman, be the team villains in that movie, and you could have Spider-Man get the black costume. You could go through all the stuff with Vulture. You could give Vulture a evil plan of his own because originally they're going to have Ben Kingsley play the Vulture,
Oh wow.
and they were going to have I don't know if they had a direct story yet, but they could also go through Oscorp because you could have, before you get like Harry becoming Goblin, you could have had this movie be the part where Harry more so wrestles with the idea of, do I want to follow my father's legacy now that I know he was this monster that terrorized New York, so
And had him go on drugs. Give him the drug storyline.
so you could have had that conflict. And then by the end of the part 1 film, you could have Peter get rid of that suit as it's starting to corrupt him. He's dealt with Vulture. Sandman got away. And you could have it where he rips the suit off. It goes to Eddie Brock. And also at the end of the film, we could see Harry become, be absorbed by the super serum gas. And then for part 2, you could have developed Venom a little more, had a little bit more time with Sandman, had Harry in there, and then you end with the climax. And you could have had Sandman do something heroic. Like, I know in the comics that Venom killed Sandman by biting him. And you could have had like Sandman save his daughter and show his daughter that, he really, in the end, even though people were like, saying, oh, your dad, he's a criminal, he's a supervillain. It's like, in the end, she sees him as a hero. And that could have been his redeeming moment. Harry could have also kicked the bucket as seen. And then we could have also gotten rid of Venom. So that is how I would have done it. But instead, we got everything squeezed into one movie.
Your turn, Drew.
I really didn't. I liked the Venom thing or the alien suit. And I like the Harry Osborn element. Again, the Osborn story arc is the pivotal element of the villain element of this trilogy. So you needed that regardless. The Sandman thing, although I don't mind it, to me it felt random. The whole idea of making him, oh, he was there the night your uncle died. That felt like almost like a little bit, not desperate, but they were trying to give it relevance as to why he's in this movie, which I can appreciate, but I really don't think you need Sandman in this film. I liked the alien suit. I liked seeing, if God bless Tobey Maguire, he's such a nice guy, and he could never be evil, as he demonstrated in that film. He could not do evil. So maybe if he could have done that a little bit better and actually being scary or, threatening, and then having Venom still for the finale. I would have loved to have seen Venom for more of the film, but it's okay that we only got him for a little bit. I think it would have worked fine just with Harry and Venom, to be honest, because I really looked at Sandman as being the odd man out there. That really didn't have much relevance to the story. The alien suit did, because it was showing Peter and how connected he was to the suit and how he was becoming a monster. Harry needed to be there because it was the continuing story element of the entire trilogy. But Sandman just seems so random to me. I think it worked just fine with two villains, the way it did in Spider-Man 2 with Harry there again and Doc Ock. But I guess since it was part 3, they felt the need to have 3 villains. And I understand there was a lot of conflict there with Raimi not wanting to put Venom in there, but still I think it worked out nicely, and it just got to be the whole issue where you were combining too much into one film. So again, I just think I didn't hate Sandman in there, but I think really they could have done without him. To be honest, I think that they tried to squeeze him and give him relevance, but it wasn't terribly needed the way I felt the other ones were more essential to the plot, if they were going to keep it that way.
Okay, I'm going to go with the idea that they could only use the villains that they ended up using in the movie. because I think that it could have worked. Yes, the whole Sandman killing Uncle Ben thing, that was a contrivance. They did not need that. Sandman, he's a thug. He robs banks and everything. He doesn't need the emotional connection to Spider-Man. Just Harry alone being attacking Peter and threatening him and everything. That should have been enough catalyst for Spider-Man to start getting angry enough for the suit to attach to him. Yes, I agree with you, Sean, about the whole shuttle thing. They should have used Jameson since they had introduced him in Spider-Man 2. They should have done the whole Spider-Man does that big heroic moment that makes everybody just love him all of a sudden. Keep the MJ storyline where things aren't going so great for her, for the personal drama there. That was fine. When Peter gets the suit, have him act like Peter in the black suit, not emo Peter. Let him become a threat to the people that he cares about, where they are concerned for him, and eventually he himself realizes, whoa, I am becoming super violent. Where at the end of the movie, have him go up against Sandman. He's only able to beat Sandman because he has the black suit, but he nearly kills him somehow. And maybe even put in the Vulture so that you have that in there, or have him almost kill Vulture. Something along those lines where Spider-Man realizes, holy cow, I have become a monster, and this thing is only driving me further. If I don't get rid of it now, it's going to consume me. Then you can have the awesome bell tower sequence. End it on a cliffhanger with the transformation of Harry turning into the Green Goblin finally. And the transformation of Venom, which I thought was going to be the original ending for this movie. I didn't think for a minute that they would actually use Venom in the movie itself until the reviews started coming out, and everybody started complaining about the fact that he only had 15 minutes of screen time, and that was it for Venom. Yeah, I completely agree with the idea. Split Spider-Man 3 into 2 parts, and pretty much everything that you guys already said from there.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome.
I think we fixed Spider-Man 3.
You are right. You are right though. That sequence with Eddie becoming Venom does feel very much like a cliffhanger ending. And I remember, just a little side note here, when Dark Knight came out, and they were saying that Harvey Dent was going to be in there, and that you're going to see Two-Face. I'm like, oh my god, please don't make it a Spider-Man 3 scenario where you just have him in there for the ending. And it was, but it was done in a much better way.
Well, they also set up for Two-Face much better. I mean, he was an actual character in there, whereas Eddie Brock, he wasn't Eddie Brock.
He was just there.
Yeah. Another change that they really need to make to Spider-Man 3, have Eddie Brock's life be ruined by Spider-Man and Peter Parker. In the comics, his life went into the gutter completely. In this movie, he was mildly inconvenienced. He lost his job. Oh well, you can find another one. There was no establishment of he couldn't find any other job anywhere except for a throwaway line.
Well, considering that his face was in all the Bugle papers and that he had just tried to frame New York's #1 hero, I think that might be very difficult to find, even something. It's like, I've actually heard stories where people have made these terrible mistakes at a job, even in real life. And it may have not even been directly something they were doing, like they were doing it on purpose. It was an accident. They had a hard time even finding a job at McDonald's, so.
Oh, I realize that, but for the thematic purposes of a movie, you really need to establish something so heavy when you're going to have a character towards the end of the movie go to church and pray to God for him to kill someone else for you.
Yeah, that it really needed to be a little more he was a little whiny, it's like, oh come on dude, really. So honestly,
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just say also, the last thing I think we can all agree on that they should do better with Venom is stop showing us his face. I want to see the alien face. I don't want to see Eddie Brock's face all the time. That's part of what made Venom so cool. It's like, why are we looking at his face? I don't want to see your face.
Not to mention that even when Brock was talking, the alien face was moving, and yet they still drew it back.
It didn't make any sense. And besides that, the actor said that the mouthpiece was very uncomfortable and would often cut into his gums. So why? Why? You already had all this budget being thrown at the movie. You couldn't spend the couple extra just to make sure that Venom continued to look awesome throughout?
Yeah, they definitely needed to work on the Venom angle. So, well, I don't know if it'll ever happen one day, but if they ever get to a point where maybe
They're planning on making a Venom movie.
Yes.
I am not talking about a Venom movie. I'm not talking about a Venom movie. I am not talking about this Venom movie.
Oh, we're talking about it now.
It's called Venom Carnage, for heaven's sakes. How does that make any sense? Venom Carnage? It's not even Venom / Carnage. It's just Venom Carnage.
It sounded cool.
Then the second movie we're going to look at. Brace yourselves. Batman and Robin.
God, I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. We just crashed everywhere. We died.
Oh, okay, guys. Start thinking.
I'll be a brave soul. I'll go first. Number one, get rid of Bane and Poison Ivy. That first and foremost, get them out of there. They could make the Dr. Freeze, Mr. Freeze. Holy cow! I knew that didn't sound right. I'm like, wait, is that right? Yeah, that's right. I was like, no, it's not. It's Mr. Freeze, but he was a doctor. Okay.
Don't worry about it. I've been making mistakes all day long. Go
right.
ahead.
Clearly, you're a bad influence on me.
Dr. Freeze will see you now.
No thanks. But no, that story could have worked. Poison Ivy and Bane, no. I didn't like that element at all. I think if they would have made it more serious and dramatic like they did for the animated series, which is where they got the inspiration for it, it would have been a whole lot more effective. And of course, having Schwarzenegger, a big action star, playing I was gonna say Dr. Freeze again, Mr. Freeze, did not help either. So have a more Shakespearean type actor or some. I'm not sure who would be good. Maybe Gary Oldman. I don't know. Before he was, Commissioner Gordon, he could have been Mr. Freeze. I could see it. Had that be your main focus. I love the idea. I love the whole Alfred thing. Him being sick and dying. That was very emotional. Some of the best moments of that film that people forget about that were actually really well done were those moments. The whole Robin being rebellious, you can still have that. You just don't need to have Poison Ivy there. You can have other elements in there introduced that shows that they have conflict working together. I think that could have worked fine. You didn't need to have another. They could still have like another girl character in it that maybe they're both fighting for. It just doesn't have to be another villain character. Maybe, because I know the previous couple of films have had 2 villains in it, so to just have one in this film would seem a little bit random, but yeah. And again, even having Batgirl in there just seems so random. And just a lot of these things, a lot of this scenario was very reminiscent of what would soon become Spider-Man 3. Too much in one movie and none of it really worked well together. It's okay to have a lot of elements in a single film, but when they're all complete opposites and they can't blend in together, then it's not going to work. And it doesn't help that the subject matter also doesn't take itself seriously, but I should reward them. Not seriously, but just has a respect for itself. You can make the point of saying, oh, they're trying to parody or pay homage to the Adam West, but I don't see that. I don't see that really much at all. I like George Clooney more so as Bruce Wayne than Batman, but I think he worked pretty good. But yeah, I think it should have mainly just focused on Mr. Freeze and make it more of a dramatic story. If you want to put another side villain in there, maybe, but I just don't see how they would work out as much. Maybe they could make it work, but it's okay that it was silly, because I don't mind having silly moments in Batman. Like if you want to have those little homage tributes to Adam West, that's fine. But there's a difference between just the sublime and the ridiculous, and I just went above and beyond that. I can still watch that film today, and it's been almost 20 years now since that film came out. I've I'm okay with it now. Like I'm not a big fan of it still, but we've had the Nolan trilogy. We're having a new franchise coming up now. I think it's time to forgive and definitely forget, and just move on from it. But yeah, it was a hodgepodge from the beginning, and it shows. Joel Schumacher was the Michael Bay of the '90s. Sorry.
Okay, well, first, I think that they needed to bring Batman back to his origins. Then, I think that they needed to do a mentor story between Batman and his trainer. I think they needed to get rid of Robin and Batgirl, make Alfred a little bit bigger in the movie, maybe bring in Scarecrow, have a little bit more of the mob mentality, give Commissioner Gordon a bigger role, maybe make him lieutenant. In other words, give us Batman Begins, because Batman and Robin is unsalvageable.
Okay.
I
Okay,
tried.
no,
at
I
least.
know that's cheating.
tried.
I know, I'm cheating. No,
You were essentially just trying to turn one movie into a completely different movie that was already made. I was being fair. Try again.
fine. Okay, in all seriousness, I agree with you, Drew. If they had played up the angle between the Mr. Freeze and his wife storyline that was lifted from the animated series and the Alfred subplot, that would have worked. Those were the best elements of the movie, bar none. Go ahead and introduce Batgirl, and yes, okay, given what we have gotten from Commissioner Gordon in the series, no, there's no way that they could possibly make her in any way related to him. So I'm not going to complain about the fact that they made her related to Alfred, but if she's from Britain, get a British actress or get someone who can put on a British accent. If not, then some distant cousin from the Americas, which might be one of the reasons why he moved to America in the first place. Whatever. In other words, keep her consistent. Robin, play down his whininess. Please. I don't even think that they needed to have the whole confrontation between Batman and Robin. That should only be introduced if they were ready to have him go off on his own and become Nightwing. And while they gave him a Nightwing variant of his costume, they clearly couldn't do that since Batman Forever was the establishment of Robin, and it wouldn't really make sense for them to do that in the first movie and just to have him split off and do his own thing in the second. So the confrontation between the two, cut it out. Have it where they just are learning how to work as partners. That's all. Mr. Freeze, yes. Poison Ivy, no. Yeah, I agree with you, Drew. Cut her out. Bane, not needed. Cut back on the whole neon glow of Gotham. Batman Forever was over the top and cartoony, but it had enough of the original Burton elements to make it all right. So go ahead and keep that tone, and just treat the whole thing with more respect. Don't focus on just what can we do to create cool action figures. Think about what will be good for the plot.
Okay, here's mine.
Here we go.
All right, now hear me out here, okay? First, we get a time machine. Okay?
Oh dear.
We get a time machine. We go back in time to when this film was in pre-production. We pose as the executives at the board meeting, and we wait for Schumacher and his writers to come in and present the script. We take the script, we look it over, we say, oh, this is a very good script. Whoops, there's the shredding machine. Aww.
Hey, that's basically what I did.
No, honestly, when I actually rewatched Batman and Robin not too long ago, just because I hadn't seen it in so long.
You were going so good. Why'd you ruin it for yourself?
The last time I saw it was when I was real young, so it didn't really even cross my mind that, the movie was bad. I was just like, hey, it's Batman and there's Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy. Okay, that's cool. So when I go back and watch it, I'm like, wow. Okay. So rewatching it, it's just I am going to take Rory's side here and just say it's unsalvageable. This is like I can't even begin to find a way to fix this. It basically did get fixed when they rebooted Batman. So, I mean, sure, we didn't get a reboot of Mr. Freeze or Poison Ivy, but hey, they did Bane justice for the most part. And so looking at Batman and Robin, it's just like, I don't know. I I just don't know. It got too campy. It got too much. They concentrated too much on the action figures, and it just wiped out the series after that. And they had to put it down for a little bit and wait. So yeah, I'm on the Tiger Wolf side here. It's unsalvageable.
The reason why it doesn't bother me so much of how campy and ridiculous it is that it wasn't the death of the franchise. It has had a very, very successful reboot trilogy, and now again into an even larger universe. So I'm able to kind of choking my words here, but forgive the film for what it did, because it's come back. It's come back from a lot, and it wasn't too far gone. It put it. You're right. We put it into a dormancy for almost a decade, but it did manage to come back and give us one heck of an amazing trilogy. So I'm okay with that. It's almost like in the same way I would look at some of the Marvel stuff now, where it's like, hey, you can watch some of the more campy stuff, or you can watch the more serious stuff. And that's kind of how I look at Batman. I can watch the gothic, dark feel of Tim Burton, the more campy and yes, absurdity of Joel Schumacher's films, even though I can still look for little things about them that are enjoyable. You can go for the really dark and more down-to-earth, realistic approach of the Nolan films, and who knows what we're gonna get with the new series, per se. But I just like I'm okay with the diversity there, because it's not like it's Batman and Robin or nothing at all. We've have stuff that's come before and after, and yes, it is horrifically bad, but I guess I just try to look for the good in everything, even when it's very, very hard to find.
Yeah. Honestly, you're right in some ways. Although I do have a friend who actually said one day, I like Batman and Robin. I was like, how you like Batman and Robin? He's like, yeah, I find it to be a good spoof of Batman.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. That is kind of what it is. It's a spoof of itself. Yeah, yeah. And when you realize that going into the film, if you can kind of take that approach in your mind, I think you're gonna have a fun time, even though that's not how it's intended to be made.
I guess that's the same thinking behind the Superman Lives documentary that's going on right now. It would have been awful. It would have been absolutely terrible. But it's fun to think about what could have been. And in this case, in Batman's case, we got the what could have been.
it really is, a spoof in some ways. And it's like, I'm just gonna, I got my serious Batman trilogy, so I'm just gonna go back and laugh at this because it's so ridiculously bad. And I think that's kind of the same way. It's like, and you're right with Marvel. It's like, hey, you remember Howard the Duck? And now we got Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's like you got that moment of like, sometimes these studios sometimes come back with something and they're like, they give you this almost like redeeming film series, and it's like, okay, I can relax on the whole, like, oh no, they ended my favorite movie series in the worst way possible. So I think that's how we should look at some of these bad films. No, this was a spoof. Okay, so guys, thank you for joining me tonight. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Drew, for coming on the show.
My pleasure. It was great to be here.
Had a lot of fun with you today.
Thank you. I'd love to come back again. Wink, wink.
Yeah, sure. We'd be glad to have you back. Anyway, so for comic books, go to the movies. I'm Sean Basing at the Fox and the Fedora.
I'm Roy Griffin, the Tiger Wolf 55.
I'm Drew Brown, Bloodstained Fur.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
See ya.